Why is Uncharted 4 a thief's end a game? The shooting experience sucks, with both terrible weapon mechanics and AI. The stealth system relies on shallow and repetitive mechanics. The controls are frustrating and downright awful on a keyboard and mouse. There is a lot to dislike about the game if you care about the quality of the gameplay and ludonarrative. Yet, the experience and game are not all bad. It does have some great sides. The game has great visuals and environments. The environmental storytelling is excellent. The theme is implemented well, with an overarching story that works pretty well. The characters are solid. Basically, everything that touches the cinematic experience or narrative ranges from decent to good. Which begs the question, would Uncharted 4, A Thief's End, be better as a TV show or animated series? I will try to answer that question by looking at what the gameplay adds to the experience and how the gameplay detracts from the experience. Let us start with the strongest aspect of the game, the environments. The environments are beautiful and it is a joy to wander through them. But more importantly, the environments tell a story. Both a TV show and a game may include beautiful environments that tell a story, but where they differ is in the pacing and audience control of the storytelling. When you watch a TV show, you have no control over the pacing. That means that you miss a lot of the environmental storytelling because the focus of the scene is usually somewhere else, such as characters or plot lines. The primary role of the environment is usually to set a tone or atmosphere of the scene. The environmental storytelling usually has a secondary role. It has a secondary role because the audience do not have time to take the environment in. They do not have time to figure out what the environment tells them and how it connects to the rest of the story. Games are significantly better at using environmental storytelling. In a lot of locations, the game allows the player to stop and stare at the environment for as long as they want. The player is allowed to piece together the clues in their environment and create their own stories. The environment is, of course, also important in creating the theme, tone and atmosphere of the setting. The environmental storytelling is probably the biggest benefit Uncharted gets from being a game compared to a TV show. Uncharted 4 utilizes a lot of gameplay elements to keep the player in the same place. This forces the player to pay attention to the environment. I would argue that this is the main purpose of climbing, for example. Climbing provides the player with additional angles and slows down the pacing of the game. The reward for climbing is often gorgeous, scenic views of the environment. Stealth also forces the player to slow down and look at the environment. Stealth requires patience, which gives the player plenty of time to take in the environment. Environmental storytelling is, in a way, smuggled into the stealth gameplay. Every type of gameplay has an environment in the background that tells a story, even if the player only fleetingly pays attention to it. While TV shows also use environmental storytelling to great effect, the difference between them and a game is player control. The player is more engaged in the experience because they are actively doing something, but more importantly, the player can control the pacing. They can stop and look at the environment for as long as they want, or rush through it at their own pace. This is a massive benefit the game has in comparison to a TV show. This might be an odd take, but I think that Sam's betrayal highlights a great usage of gameplay as a storytelling device. While it is not surprising that Sam would betray Nate based on his character, it genuinely surprised me that the whole Alcazar plotline was made up. It is not surprising because Sam lied. It is surprising because I, as a player, played through it. I experienced it. The game did not tell the story through in-game dialogue, where Sam tells Nate about his escape. The game did not show a cutscene of it happening either. You actually played through his imaginary made-up escape. For you as a player, the escape is very real. You played it. When you yourself have experienced something, it is much harder to discard that experience as fake. I felt like the developer betrayed my trust by making me play something that was not real. That betrayal carries over to Sam's betrayal. It is the first time I've experienced this way of using gameplay to subvert expectations by undermining what is real and what is imagination. To be fair, this will be the most effective the first time you experience this usage of gameplay. Betrayals depend on the unexpected after all, but even so, the added layer of immersion you get from the Ludo narrative makes the story easier to believe. It is easier to trick the player. This storytelling mechanism is only available in games by using gameplay as a way to tell the story. This deep immersion and belief in what is happening cannot be created in the same way in a passive format like a TV show. This is for me the highlight of the entire game. One of the enormous benefits that gameplay may offer is that of immersion. When a player is engaged with gameplay in a manner they enjoy, they become immersed in the game. The player becomes Nate. The player is the one doing the shooting, the stealth, the climbing and the driving. Nate is just the avatar they control. The player might feel a stronger connection to Nate because, in a way, they are Nate. Nate's story becomes the player's story. And this sort of connection between a character and a player can only be forged during gameplay, and is not something that can be done through a TV show in the same way. The key word here is potential immersion. It needs to be created through gameplay that is engaging for the player. What a player considers engaging is wildly subjective. I would say that most casual players who play games to turn their brains off will be engaged by what Uncharted 4 has to offer. Experienced players with more demands, on the other hand, will be frustrated and bored by what is frankly shallow, repetitive and mid-quality gameplay. I want to summarize my issues with the gameplay. Keep in mind that these are issues that destroyed the experience for me personally, and they are not objective failures by the gameplay. The major gameplay problems are mainly the control system, the stealth system and the shooting system. One of the biggest issues with the game is the control scheme and how it feels to control your character. I don't feel in control of my character most of the time. The character feels awkward and frustrating to control. You constantly bump into invisible walls that stop you from moving. The character and vehicles may suddenly move in a different direction that differs from your input. The game uses overlapping controls for actions such as rolling and cover, which is very frustrating when you want control. Your character automatically hangs onto ledges, making quick attacks on enemies below you harder to accomplish. These issues are heightened using a keyboard and mouse, and while the controls are better using a controller, they are still not great. While the stealth system is functional, it is very basic. It grows stale quickly. It is essentially just a standard move from location A to B to C and press a button to take down an enemy at every location while not being spotted. Paying attention to the patrols and going to the correct location at the correct time while using the invisibility of tall grass is the entire system. There are no tools or equipment that can help you trick the enemy or help you traverse the unexpected locations. Then we have the shooting system, which is flat out garbage. Everything from how your weapon works to how the enemy works to how the cover system is implemented is just bad. Your weapons have low accuracy with a high bullet spread, while the enemy has laser-like accuracy regardless of distance and can see through foliage. If you are spotted, even for a brief second, every AI instantly knows where you are. It is a poorly implemented system that feels extremely frustrating to engage with, that pushes me away from the game. Which means it pushes me away from the good parts of the experience as well. To be very clear, these are my personal issues with the gameplay. A lot of players love the gameplay. and it is important to understand that there are very different experiences of the gameplay. How you as an individual mesh with the gameplay is probably one of the deciding factors if the game should be a game. If the gameplay works for you, it provides a great foundation for creating tension in the narrative. A good example happens during the Rossi Mansion. You have a bidding war between Sullivan and Rake. There is real pressure on you to turn off the light as fast as possible. This pressure and the very real option of failing creates tension. If we had a similar scene in a TV show, it can be very easy to disregard the tension because the story needs the lights to turn off the progress. If the light does not turn off, the narrative takes a drastically different turn, which is of course possible, but the preference to maintain the story on the same trajectory is often so strong that this slight possibility is disregarded, especially in the action-adventure genre. This scene has a much lower tension in a potential TV show as opposed to the game. Failure is always present in the game. Because the player can always fail the gameplay, the tension never goes away regardless of what the cinematic narrative might do. This is actually a pretty significant advantage that a game gains if the gameplay is good. Obviously, there is no tension if the player is not engaged with the gameplay and does not care. Tension is reliant on player enjoyment and immersion in the gameplay. The gameplay is consistently plagued by ludonarrative dissonance and pacing issues. Because the game has such a huge emphasis on cinematic scenes, things need to happen in a certain order and take a certain amount of time. This would not have been an issue in a TV show where the pacing is streamlined and controlled. But it is an issue in a game when the player is the one that controls the pacing. In my experience, I was frequently way ahead of the scripted events and often felt like I had to wait for the characters and game to catch up to me. The footage you see on screen is a great example of this. Elena and Nate are chasing Rafe and the gang through Avery's tunnels, filled with death traps. The tunnel partially collapsed after they passed through it. This tunnel is clearly not stable. When you enter the room, the first thing you notice is the obvious hole in the ceiling, indicating a path you will take. Before you are allowed to do that, you first need to go to the tunnel and click to start the cinematic sequence. The tunnel fully collapses, leaving you in total darkness as the flashlight fails. The characters need to find an alternative light source. They try Sam's lighter, they try matchsticks, eventually they find some old torches. This sequence makes a ton of sense from a cinematic perspective, as the torches add a lot of atmosphere to the game. The problem is that the flashlight is removed and the torches are added in a way that does not make sense during gameplay. You need to go through the motions before you are allowed to go into the super obvious hole in the ceiling. This sequence is such a good example of something that works really well in a streamlined format like a TV show, but one that does not work when the player controls the pacing. Then we have the problem of the ludonarrative dissonance. Ludonarrative simply means the story told through gameplay. Ludonarrative dissonance is simply how the story told through gameplay and cinematic narrative differ. Nate sits on a high horse of morality and refuses to harm or kill anyone during the cinematic narrative, while he is straight up a butcher in the gameplay. He has killed hundreds, if not thousands of soldiers without a shred of mercy. One might come to his defense and say that he kills in self-defense, but it really isn't. During stealth, he kills people instead of knocking them unconscious. Nate, as a character, makes an active decision to kill here. It is not forced on him. If you respected games as a storytelling medium, you would respect the story told through the gameplay instead of pretending like the story told does not exist and does not matter. Let us try to answer the question asked at the start of the video. Does Uncharted 4 benefit from being a game, or should it have been a TV show, movie, or animated series instead? assuming it would hold a similar quality, of course.
Right, we could do that.
The answer is, annoyingly, yes and no. Uncharted 4 should be a video game for the casual audience that can disregard every issue I have discussed in this video. If you can disregard all of the bad gameplay, the gameplay reinforces the cinematic narrative, providing a stronger narrative overall. But Uncharted 4 should not be a game if the target audience is the game connoisseurs. The gameplay is so bad, frustrating and rage-inducing that it severely harms the overarching narrative. Personally, I would have enjoyed the series a lot more as a TV show or as an animated series. But this is a console game created for a casual audience, which is why the game should be a game, even if I personally dislike it. For most people, the gameplay helps the narrative and experience more than it harms it. I hope that you found some of these thoughts interesting. Thank you for watching.